Hello friends, how's your day? Welcome to science lesson for P5 students with me, Miss Rosa. Today we are going to have a new discussion. We are going to start the first chapter about flowering plants. So are you ready? Let's start. In this chapter you are going to have 3 lessons. The first one, flowers, and then reproduction in flowering plants, and germinations of seeds. Let's start one by one. Flowers. So you're going to learn that not all the plants produce flowers, and then identify parts of flowers and describe the function of some parts of flowers. You can open the student's book page 4 until 7. So what are flowering and non-flowering plants? I have some examples. The first one, sunflowers. So the sunflowers are flowering plants. These plants produce flowers. While the other example, I have ferns and conifers. They are non-flowering plants. So those plants do not produce flowers. What are the parts of flower? Can you take a look for this picture? So the flowers are the parts of plants that help it reproduce. So here we have stamen is the male part of the flower, and carpel is the female parts of the flower. Let's take a look further. So here the parts of the flower. The first one we have petal, and then here is the sepal. Now stamen is the male part. We have here filamen, and this is the anther. While for the female part, we have carpel here. The first one we have stigma, and then here is the style, and then here is the ovary, and inside the ovary here there is ovule. Let's start the function. And then here each parts of the flower will have different function. The first one is the anther. The anther here contains pollen. Pollen contains of tiny powdery grains. And then we have stigma. It's the part that pollen grains land on. Then we have petal. If you see here, the petals of some flowers are brightly colored. They attract insects and can help this flower to reproduce. So it can transfer pollen from the male part to the female part. And then next one is the ovary. The ovary can contain one or more ovules, and each ovule here has a neck. Let's continue for the second lesson, reproduction in flowering plants. Here you are going to name the stages in the life cycle of a flowering plant and describe how flowering plants reproduce. You can open the student's book page 8 until 14. Can you take a look for this cycle? What is the cycle of a flowering plant? This diagram shows the life cycle of the flowering plants from the seed, and then it becomes seedling, young plant, adult plant, and go back again to the seed. And the reproduction of flowering plants are pollination, fertilization, fruit and seed reproduction and seed production. What is pollination? Pollen grains need to be transferred to the male part from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower. And the pollination here can be happened by the insects or birds. They travel from one flower to another. Or the other one, it also can be happened by the wind. The light pollen grains are easily carried by the wind from one flower to another. And how are fruits and seeds produced? If you see the diagram here, how fertilization occurs. The first one we have here is the pollen. The pollen grain lands on the stigma and it develops into a tiny tube. So we call it as a pollen tube. And then here, the pollen tube grows downwards into the ovary. And then the pollen here join with the egg and the fertilization occurs. Now, how fruits and seeds start to develop after fertilization? Can you take a look for this diagram? So here the petals and the stamen wither and fall off. The ovary swells to develop into a fruit, and the ovules develop into the seeds. And then next, the fruit develops fully and ripens. If the fruits are ripened, so you can eat the fruit. And what is seed dispersal? Seed needs to be scattered away from the parent plant. The new plants may not grow healthily and may die if they grow close to the parent plants. The scattering of seeds away from the parent plant known as seed dispersal. And if the seed dispersal allows plant to have enough water, light, and space, so it can grow bigger and healthily. So these are the examples of the seed dispersals. So the first one, the seeds here are dispersed by the wind, and the second one dispersed by water, and some seeds are dispersed by animals, and some fruits explode to disperse their seeds. Let's continue for the third lesson, germination of seeds. So you are going to describe seed germination and the condition required for it. You can open the student's book page 15 until 16. What is germination? Germination here is a process which a seed here develops into young plants. Seeds needs air, water, and suitable temperature to germinate. Can you take a look for this diagram? It shows the whole process of the germination. The first one, the seed absorbs water, and then the root grows downwards into the soil, and after that more roots grow, and the stem starts to grow above the ground. And then the stem grows upwards here, and the first leaves appear, and then the leaves start to make the food. That's all for the whole process. Is it clear, everyone, talking about the flowering plants? Thank you for watching the video. See you again in the class, everyone. Bye.